All right. Namaskaram and welcome to everyone watching. It's great pleasure to introduce my guest for today. His name is Ashton. He'll be introducing himself in a while. For those who don't know me, I'm humbled and happy. Those who sleepwalked, those of you who stumbled or sleepwalked to this podcast, my name is Francesco. I'm a Classical Hatha Yoga Teacher with Isha Foundation. And in this series, we're interviewing Hatha Yoga, Isha trained Hatha Yoga teachers by Sadhguru Gurukulam, the same Classical Hatha Yoga teacher trained myself. And their journey, we explore the journey to yoga, into teaching, and their other activities for those who have. So today I'm joined by a friend and a fellow inhabitant of beautiful Bharat, though he's in a different city than me, but he also found his way here since several years, and for many reasons he ended up in the country just like myself. So I'll let him say, without spilling all the beans, welcome Ashton.
Yes, Namaskaram. Let's get ready to podcast.
Here we are after the official announcement. So, want to give us a short overview of your background, or you want to jump right into the questions? Maybe you can give a quick overview.
Sure. Yeah. So my name's Ashton BESSETTE. I've also taken the Sadhguru Gurukulam Isha teacher training in 2018. I found out about it, and I found out about Sadhguru and this wonderful world in 2012. And that was during the first training, and I vowed myself that I would take it at some point. I wasn't sure when that would be, and 6 years later it happened in ways that many teachers have, that it just seems magical that it happened. And yes, coming in and out of Bharat now since 2017, when I came for the Adiyogi unveiling with the Prime Minister Modi and Sadhguru also. So yes, it's been quite a journey from there to here now. And yes, enjoying Bharat for the last 6 years mainly, being here since before lockdown, and taking everything the country has to offer, travel and city life, and work in teaching yoga.
Awesome, man. So let's start from the beginning, if there's such a thing. In terms of yoga, what would you say were some of the initial phases of yoga? Or what sparked your curiosity or interest? And did you come into yoga out of your own intelligence? Or did you, like most people, you get smacked around by life and you said, okay, I give up?
Oh, it's definitely been a cage match. And life is the heavyweight and I'm the ultra lightweight. Yeah, it's definitely been like that. I think, but luckily, I feel like luckily life can smack us around early enough. For me, it was my early 20s when I first came into this. So at least that way, I got a chance to experience life and go through life in an intense way, and then realize, okay, life is not in the university, and life is not going to be in the fantastic job. Life is not going to be in the relationship. Life is not going to be in the status. What is it? Where is it? So in the parties or the festivals, music festivals, and all these things, yeah, life is not there. So where is it? So I guess naturally these questions I think everyone has in some way. I mean, it doesn't take somebody more than one night of partying to realize, okay, the way I feel after this is not exactly the best way. It doesn't take someone more than 4 years of school to take it and then realize, okay, what next? Then you have a job, then what next? So these questions are naturally kind of there, but we're just in increments, kind of maybe the next thing, maybe the next thing. So luckily for me, the walls had fallen down enough where I could be like, okay, I have to take care of my health. I have to take care of my well-being. I have to be somebody of value for myself and the people around me, but that's not going to be in chasing something else and hoping that life will get better. So needing to grab that in my own hands. I would say probably the first thing that I got into was meditation. I was more into lifting weights when I was in university. That was something I did. Most people, they call it the freshman 15, where you gain 15 pounds of of fat, but for me, I gained like 20 pounds of muscle in my first year of university. I spent more time in university in the gym probably than I did studying, because I always kind of followed what made me feel good. And being in the gym, aside of course from the physical look, being in the gym always felt a million times better than anything I was learning. And also I was actually had gone to school for human kinetics, so studying kinesiology and the human body, because from my early teens, it was this place where I knew that optimal health and optimizing yourself and sport and competition and intensity and the gym always made me just more relaxed. Actually, after the activity was over, I was more capable, more focused. So there was something in the sport and physical activity that I felt like kind of was my path originally, following that physicality and that intensity. And I did it as much as I could, to the extent that I could. And then even, in sport, and you're so much into the physicality, even when an injury comes, then you start to question again, what is it? Where am I? What should I do with this? If I put all my time and attention into my physicality, and then one thing can kind of slip it up, okay, has to be something more that you can kind of build a base on. So I thought the physicality was the only place. And then I was recommended by a naturopathic doctor in the beautiful British Columbia of Kelowna, who I was originally planned. I was looking to become like a naturopathic doctor and go kind of down that path. I was very inspired by the idea of plants and herbs and ancient medicine as a way of healing. That was even in my early 20s. This would have been 2010 time, kind of to date myself a bit. And I experienced this wonderful, they were wonderful people, and they recommended this one meditation where you just kind of lay there and you focus on the breath and the sensations of the body and kind of linking the two in some way. And I just had this one experience where my thought kind of ran out. I was like, what do I do now? I've been running after this mind, this thing. I was just laying on the ground doing some breath work, and all of a sudden it just completely ran out. So I thought, okay, what do I do now? And then there was a voice that kind of clicked, and it was like, have fun. So I was like, okay, I'm not sure exactly what this means, but fun to me is hanging out with friends and traveling. So I just took that direction, and I started traveling and meeting with friends. And then again, I reached this point where that wasn't enough. There was something more to life than just traveling and meeting with friends and kind of enjoying life and having fun even. So that's when the next day a YouTube video came on from some bearded man, and it said, everybody knows about the iPhone, but nobody knows about the eye. And I felt, in a time where I noticed my friends picking up their phone in a lull of conversation, I noticed the latest tech and the latest computer and the latest headphone and the latest mixer and music and car was there and amazing. And still people weren't happy, and still people were unfocused, and still people needed something more that resonated with me. And that was at a time where I think you could watch every video of Sadhguru's online in a few short days. Now you couldn't even, if you started today, there's no way I think you could consume all the content in the next decade the way that it's just being pumped out. So I just remember just watching it, and I spent time and I just watched him and listened to him, and I was waiting for him to say something that I would be like, see, you're wrong here, and see, you're judgmental of people, and see, you're teaching division, and you say you're something. And I was so at that point, right? I think corporations fail us, politicians fail us, our own people close to us fail us, our own relationships and people that we trusted do different things in different ways. And I was waiting for him to say something that contradicted, and I could, in a way, discard this thing either. But I said, oh, I'll watch for 15 minutes. And before I knew it, 3-4 hours had gone by as if it was 15 minutes. And I just sat there, and I sat back in my chair, and I just thought, okay, he's on to something. And I even tried to share it with my friend right then. I think there's a certain excitement that happens when you experience Sadhguru and you experience these teachings, and you want to share it with someone close to you, and then you're met with such an unfortunate, intense wall of blocking. Like somebody who's very close to you, you start speaking these things, and all of a sudden they become almost a different person, you know. So I was shocked. I got to instantly kind of go through that experience of sharing these things with someone. Because when you speak about freedom and you speak about the possibilities beyond what we know right now, people who are clinging to those things are obviously going to think you're against them even. So where it comes from a place within you when you feel, oh no, this will help bring us together, those people living and attaching to those things end up going against you for a little bit of time. So it's an unfortunate thing in that instant. But afterwards, you know, people see over the years and what it's become for me and what I'm making out of this life, and that spirituality is not just a detour, but it is the way, and everything else can follow in that path. And through that, you can then live your life. And there's a quote, I won't say the Sanskrit version, but of Krishna's version, where first establish yourself in yoga, then act. So that's something for me that's been very true. Finding this in my early 20s, it just was the only thing that really made sense. I continued to travel, I continued to do things, but it became a different orientation. It became one that I know the traveling isn't going to be the fulfillment. I know the relationships, I know the job, I know that isn't where the fulfillment will be. And it made me more stable and got me more opportunities and deeper friendships. And I was more clear to decide how I was going to live my life and create it the way I wanted. And seeing that assuredness from myself, my own family, and the people of, like, elders and mother and all these people, saw that, okay, he is on to something. It seems a little bit different, but he seems clear for a young person. He's more caring, he's more available, he's considerate. All these things that kind of can be lost to in certain ways when you're pursuing something that isn't there yet. So he kind of brought me back to the beginning of just like feeling, I mean, I was in my early 20s, but still it felt as if life was starting fresh again.
From there, how did you find the first program? And was it in engineering or was it something else?
Yeah, Francisco. So it was 2012 when I first found him. I was living in the middle of Canada. I actually grew up in a small town of like 1,200 people. But at this time, I had moved on to the bigger town of 4,000 people. And yeah, big upgrade. Yeah. And yeah, I had gone to school in a bigger place in these bigger cities and had these wonderful experiences. And that's why, but there was always something that I loved about the idea of people being people in smaller towns. And I guess you could say, what was the first thing was in 2012, I took the course. In 2012, first was YouTube. So I feel like in some way, I feel like I was initiated by Sadhguru then. Looking back, if I say like, what was the moment? Because I have taken, inner engineering and I have gone through these programs. But if I look at the moment that completely changed my life, it was those 3-4 hours that felt like 15 minutes on YouTube. I feel he initiated me right then, and that life has been changed, and I just needed to now catch up the body and the mind to that experience. So in 2012, it was the first year of the Isha Hatha Yoga School. At that time, that's what it was called. So obviously no classes around me. Inner engineering is either in III, which is in Tennessee, 3,000 kilometers away, or Toronto, which is 3,000 kilometers away east. So I thought to myself, I don't know when these will happen. So I waited, and I found out that Surya Kriya was coming to where I was living, a city nearby where I was living, like 200 kilometers away. So I decided, okay, I'll go to this. So I went and I learned Surya Kriya from the teacher there. She was of the first batch, Dunya Atme. She was watching this. Fantastic. I got to meet her again just a few months ago. She was in the ashram volunteering for the 2024 batch like I was. So it was just awesome to see, her again, and for her to see one of her students, inspired by what was happening, what she had offered to also, contribute equally as volunteers. What was it? Then I guess that would have been 11 years later. Like 10 years later, I guess, 10 years fully. So yeah, I took Surya Kriya, and I remember one of the questions I had asked, because of course this is super fresh. And my sister was a doll of a person also. She also came with me. I have a couple sisters, 4 sisters, and one brother, and one of my sisters, she came with me right to this class. She was into yoga and these things, but it's a different way of doing it. And she was very, very sweetly came with me. And I remember asking, after one of the sessions, I remember asking Dunya, I was like, because of course it's all so fresh, and the idea of enlightenment and the idea of going beyond all these things was so new and fresh in my mind still. I had spent time, listening to different people like Eckhart Tolle and Osho, and I was just so amazed at these beings that could exist in some way that makes you feel like there is something beyond, and the way that they are, it's just like undeniable that there's something more to this person. I think for much of what I did, comedy for me was like, laughter and comedy was the closest thing I think the West had to truth and understanding and looking at things in a way that can destroy what's in front of you, but do it lightly and also do it truthfully, so everybody in the room just kind of gets it. And the laugh is such a connecting energy. And if someone laughs in the whole home just brightens up. So I think in many ways I was also trying to pursue that, doing some stand-up comedy. I was writing some jokes, doing some things, but I also felt the limitation in this. I felt, yes, I can get them to laugh, or we can entertain each other for some time, but then what? Then what happens after the show's over? You go back to your home and that's it. You talk about the show for a little bit of time, and then what? So I was always fixated on, like, there has to be ways in which you can experience life, but then also tools to do it. So that's why what motivated me, I'm like, I have to learn the Surya Kriya. I can't fly to India. I can't drive to 3,000 kilometers in any one direction at this moment in time. And yeah, I took Surya Kriya, and I remember asking Dunya, I said, so, like, is anybody, like, at 6 months, I was like, did anybody get enlightened in those 6 months? And of course she laughed at me, and she we had gone out for ice cream, and I remember seeing her and she was eating ice cream, and I was like, oh my God, they even eat ice cream. Like, it was like these kind of ideas that you have in your head about what it is. And I was a time in my life where I was like considering this vegan and looking at vegetarian and raw juice diet and all these optimizing kind of health plans. And then you see someone that's bright and vibrant, and they're also just enjoying ice cream. And it was like the winter time in Canada, so it's not exactly like summertime enjoyment. So she just kind of brought and made me realize that you can do such amazing things, and also just be normal about it. You don't have to be unattainable and unrelatable. I think, Francisco, something that you're doing here with this podcast is just to kind of shine the light on, people that have just come from so many directions that are now here on this path. I think it's a beautiful thing, to hear the stories that you're sharing and be a part of it also.
And then, what was the step that made you consider teacher training? Was it also following an interaction with Dunya? Or how did it come about?
So yeah, it's kind of leveling up, like you kind of experience maybe Sadhguru or something happens in your life, and you think, okay, this is something that makes more sense than most things right now. I had taken Surya Kriya in 2013, then 2014 Yogasanas came, and the week after Yogasanas they were teaching Angamardana, and they're like, you should come for Angamardana. And I was like, what is Angamardana? I had no idea what Angamardana was. And I'm like, okay, fine, they never really come that often, let me go to Angamardana. And I had been in the gym I had been in intense workouts. I had played ice hockey. I had felt the intensity of like physical sport as much as you could do, almost puking from being exhausted kind of thing. And then just the way that Angamardana bent my body and shifted my body and stretched my body, put me in a place that like shook me in a way that I was like, there is so much more to this body that I don't even know that it's even physically capable of, you know. It was this steady buildup of Surya Kriya that kind of, I just loved doing it, you know. My postures weren't perfect and all these things weren't perfect, but it was just like, something is happening with this practice. Like, I couldn't leave it. Many other things could happen in my life, but Surya Kriya had to happen. It's the postures, the feet don't, the hands don't have to touch the ground, the back doesn't have to bend back perfectly, and I've realized this more as I've kind of been in the practice. He's designed it in a way like you just stay with it and he'll do the rest. Like, you don't have to be the best practitioner. You don't have to be the most flexible. You could never have done yoga in your life. And Surya Kriya is one of those ones that just gives that wow factor. And even Shavasana after Surya Kriya is the most profound experience of Shavasana you could ever have. It's just something about that practice. So yeah, I had done Surya Kriya. Then next year, Yogasanas, Angamardana, Bhuta Shuddhi. And then the year after that, I had taken this inner engineering online, and that was at the time where it was a different setup than it is now. And me and a buddy, we would meet together. You know, we're in this small town, 4,000 people, farmer village type thing. And me and a buddy would meet every week, and we would do one of the inner engineerings. We'd do like a potluck together, you know. His family's a big farming family. My family, you know, we're living there. And we're just, you know, hanging out. Two guys only going through this stuff. And yeah, I'm not sure what he's up to now with it, but I would love to catch up and share with him actually how it's been. So yeah, these two guys just hanging out in a farmer type town, trades, electricians, carpentry, that's the kind of oil field kind of thing. And we were kind of just meeting together and doing potlucks and enjoying each week doing the inner engineerings. Then of course that wasn't like they have on like now where it's online, you can get initiated. So the next step was obviously to come to do the program, and that was happening at a time where they weren't doing it so much like they're doing now. Also in Canada, they were doing it only like sometimes in Vancouver, sometimes Toronto, and III, which is the Tennessee ashram, Isha Institute of Inner Sciences. So I just made a decision in February of 2025 that I would do it. And one day by the grace of it, really, I packed up everything into my car because I decided like 6 months in advance, I'll go down to III for the Adiyogi consecration that they were having there, the abode of yoga that they were establishing in III. I said, okay, I'll be there. Right after that, I'll come volunteer and see what it's like. And I packed up things in my car. I was like, I'll go stay for a month or two and see what it's like. And as I was getting my car ready, something had broken down in my car. The back rear brake, like, broken down. And I was like, well, I can't afford to fix this. So I started learning how to fix it myself. And I was tinkering every night after work, trying to fix these brakes. And my one window wasn't rolling down. And I had Googled that there was a repair shop between me and III that had the piece. So I would go down to this piece with my open window and I would go fix it on the way. And I had all these ideas. And one day I was just trying to fix my car, and my neighbor across the back alley, he had been watching me. He was a mechanic, and he looked at me and he was like, I have a friend that might buy your car or trade you cars. And I thought, okay, I had this doubt. What is in it for him? Why would he approach me with such a deal? What do I have to offer him? Like, maybe this car is going to be in a certain way. And he ended up, his friend had the almost exact same car as mine. He showed up, he said, yeah, I'll arrange it. I'll get the friend. You can come and you test drive it and see. And the friend's car, who gave it, let me use it, something was rough in it. But as I was driving my car to him, my back brake like broke and kind of caved out, and I had one working brake and the front brakes obviously, but there was this grinding in these things. I was like, oh great, now there's not even a chance that he's gonna like trade me across, or what will be the price now. And I test drove his friend's car, and it was perfect. It was enough to get me where I needed to go. I felt no real problem. And his friend had driven my car, and the friend messaged her, looked over to the mechanic, and he said to him, you know, there's something wrong with this part. And the mechanic was like, it's fine. You trade him across, we'll fix up this car for you. So it was 3 days before I was supposed to leave for III. And I was in the car and got some things done, some paperwork, some things, and he traded me across, no extra money, no nothing. And that basically was the car that I drove 3,000 kilometers, 2 full days of driving, stopping to sleep in a McDonald's parking lot somewhere along the way, and then arrived in III. And right the morning of the abode of yoga consecration finishing. So I took my inner engineering at the end of that month, and or in a few weeks actually. And again, I did it off of the basis of, let me see what this place is like. Let me see what Sadhguru's promises are. Let me see if it's really something. Everything else is working, but if he's saying that this is that, then I should at least try it. And I remember there was one video, I don't know where it is, but he says, you know, just try it, just do it. And if it doesn't work, you come and tell me it doesn't work. And I thought, I will do it, and I'll do it dedicatedly. And when it doesn't work, I will find you and I will tell you. Like, in my mind, I thought this. And I remember doing it, and that along with the Hatha Yoga practices, like the Hatha Yoga practices open you up and you feel soft. So when you sit, you're just sitting, and because the time has elapsed between your Shambhavi and the time that you started, because of these practices, you're also kind of in this space where nothing else has existed. So you kind of sit very nicely into these kriyas like Shambhavi. And I remember sitting there and just feeling it, and it felt good. And every day I would volunteer while I was there. And every day I was doing my practice, and I would walk by this one bush, and it was during fall time. So these colors of greens are turning, and it's such a beautiful ashram, and it's got the most natural, beautiful trees. And it's just like if you ever went there, even just for the nature, if you have a family or friends that are just not experiencing this part, but they like nature, even there, it's enough. And I would walk by this one bush, there'd be this green leaves, and they were starting to turn red. And slowly I could see like the colors were just becoming brighter and brighter in my experience, like a fluorescent, psychedelic experience walking by this one bush that was just lit up in the fall of these changing colors. And I just realized, like, wow, like this is getting increasingly beautiful. Like I am like feeling like ecstatic, just thinking of like how these colors change and how wild it is that nature is just transforming like this, and how can it be like this? And I just felt like so ecstatically like happy to exist in that way, that to experience life in that way. And also while I was volunteering, you know, there's a lot more hands-on volunteering while you're there. So I was doing like washing dishes, we're doing raking of these leaves, we're doing a lot more labor work, you know, even after the abode was consecrated, right? They need hall materials, they need to do all these other things. And I just found myself like one day washing dishes and just singing. Like I was just enjoying the fact that you can just sing. Like I was just caught myself just feeling so joyous in that moment. And I looked at myself from a side, and I saw this guy who's just laughing and joking and washing dishes, and just the mundane things were just becoming wonderful. So it wasn't that any big experience needed to happen for me, but just the experience of nature and the experience of chores in a joyful, easy way. Kind of, it seems like such a basic thing, but to be honest, it's a suffering of most, there's not much to do in the day, but you gotta, work and take care of the family and live your life, but somehow we messed it all up. So coming back to the simple things, but also having better memory and better sleep and deeper relationships just kind of happened as an outpouring of these practices, because you're closer to yourself. So you know what you need, another must need also. So you just kind of naturally connect, and your wants and needs kind of go down a little bit, especially when you're staying in a place like the ashram, where food is taken care of, survival is taken care of. So all that's left is to do your practices and to do what's asked of you with some simple volunteering. So it was a big kind of reopening of, again, a refresher of life. Like you feel like a kid, you feel in control though. You feel like you can do anything. If they need you to run a mile, if they need you to clean some gutter somewhere, if they need you to do something that you would be resistant to, you're like, let me do it. So you stop thinking about yourself so much and you start enjoying the process and wanting to contribute because you're full of energy. So that was kind of the first experience of inner engineering in this way.
Among the Hatha Yoga practices, is there any favorite? I know it's almost like a blasphemous question because it's like asking a parent to choose who's your favorite child, but in case. Do you have a favorite practice?
Of course, yeah. And parents do have a favorite child. Maybe it just, maybe it wasn't you, Francesco. That's why.
There's actually a hilarious Russell Peters joke about this. You know who your favorite child is because if, suppose you have two children, one of them falls down the stairs, you'll be yelling and cussing at them. Whereas if the other one falls down the stairs, you're like, oh my God, baby, are you okay? So that's how you know.
Yeah, good litmus test like this. So I look at it like this. If I had to choose one practice, it would be Surya Kriya. I think that one's just the one for everything. I think that's it for me. If I had to just do one, Surya Kriya. If I had to recommend one, it would be Surya Kriya. If you turned off all the taps and you only gave Surya Kriya, I would say this is the one. It's it. But they have, right, like Yogasanas has its way. Bhuta Shuddhi has its way. Angamardana has its way. All of these other practices. Bastrika, Shanmukhi is also a fantastic practice. One of my favorites actually now. That's become a daily. In whatever way. I just feel like the senses and all the way that it calms down, we kind of, especially with our eyes and our ears and so much stimulation, Shanmukhi Kriya gives this kind of calmness to the senses with the eyes and the ears and the nose, and also brings a certain blood flow to the face and a certain brightness to the face. And we've kind of called it, when we teach it, we call it a digital detox, because it just kind of gives the senses a time to turn inward. And it's only like a 12, 15-minute practice fully that you can do this. And it's also light stomach condition. So you don't need to be fully 4 hours before you do it. I think it's 2.5 hours after a meal. So you can even do it in the afternoon, or you could do it before bed if you haven't eaten, before bed. And actually, it's quite energizing before bed, but it has its way. You'll calm down and you'll be fine. But yeah, even in the afternoons, if you come back from work or you're feeling a little bit like this, Shanmukhi is one of these ones where you can just sit and do it. You don't really need a yoga mat. You can do it from a bench or just the floor, or even a desk chair if it's an appropriately sized kind of non-gamer locked in kind of chair. I'm sure they could probably get it done from there.
And in terms of your classes, does any experience stand out by any of your students? Either something that happened right then and there in the class, or maybe something that people learned from you, came back after a week, a month, a year, and said, you know what? I kept up the practice and these are the changes that happened in my life.
Yeah, I think during lockdown, right, we tried to reach out and be with people the best we could. So putting on online classes. So that comes with a certain commitment. It has a certain desire, you know, you want to have to be there. We had like an 11-day program. And then we just recently heard that one of them went for Samyama, which is that 8-day silence program. It needs 60 days of preparation. You need to know all the hatha, you need to know Surya Kriya, Yogasanas, Shambhavi, Shakti, Chalana Kriya. You have to practice these like intensely. So to be a part of people's lives, you know, we're all part of people's lives, whether we know it or not, right? Whether you sell something to someone or you walk past them in the street, or even if you avoid someone, you're choosing not to involve yourself in their life, but that's also choosing a role to not be there. And what makes being a like Sadhguru Gurukulam Hatha Yoga teacher so wonderful is you get to be with people on a level that can really transform their lives. I think whether it's, you know, you want to be a public speaker, or you want to be an artist, or you want to be a businessman, you want to have an impact in the world, you want to give value to people, you want to have some sort of, you can call it legacy, but some sort of in the wake, in the following of what you are, that there are people that are benefiting and there are people that are living in a way that feels beneficial to them. Ultimately, it's all for human well-being, but we justify it with other means, and okay, we get the money, and then it's, you leave it aside, and it's like, I got, like, as a business, you have their money and they're fine with it, and that's what I'm here for. Ultimately, you could say, you know, or an artist, he's like, I'm just here for my art. But like with being like Isha, the yoga teacher like this, the Gurukulam, being a Sadhguru Guru, being, it's almost a tongue twister right now. I should have warmed up my mouth a bit, but being a Sadhguru Gurukulam teacher, yeah, you're making the active commitment that you want to be better and help people be better and be along for their journey, you know, like there's no perfect way to do it, you know. You set up a class in a certain way, you do your practices, and it's amazing to see by just doing these simple things, not doing any big thing, that people around you are experiencing, that they want to know more, that they look at you in a certain way, and it brings such a responsibility that, you know, you feel like, and as it goes on, right, when you're new, fresh into it, it's the newest and it's the best thing, but as you go on, you realize the importance of the way it's been set up, so that decades and 100 years from now and 200 years from now, it'll still be done in the same way with new people after me and you have both become back into the earth and our ashes poured into Mother Ganga or wherever they end up. So I think just seeing the transformation and seeing the growth of people and seeing that they go from just a taste all the way to what Sadhguru's offering with Samyama is wonderful to witness. And in terms of like an actual experience, I remember one time a girl was having a certain experience and I witnessed it and I thought, like, you know, this person is, something has happened, but you don't know what it is, and they seem kind of shifted, or they seem kind of open, or they seem a little bit, you know, even withdrawn right now as they're piecing together what has happened for them. And you just kind of, you know, you let it happen, you're there for them, and then the next day they share with you such a beautiful experience that, you know, they had this concern or this worry and it's just gone. They felt just such a love, or they felt such a beauty, or they felt such an intensity to life in that moment. And, you know, we're just giving some instructions. We've just set the atmosphere and it just opens people up. And what I was pursuing in university with human performance and physical fitness, you realize that it's a wonderful expression of life, but there has to be something deeper, and to see these people also get the benefits of health and physical nature, but also experiencing something else. You realize that whether you're physical or non-physical, you should do yoga. It's not in competition. Yoga is not in competition with the physical. The physical is not in competition with yoga. You can go and lift weights. You can do yoga also. because they're for different things. And only in this last decade or so have I really come to realize that one is not to replace the other, but if you look at it like an investment, you want to invest your time where your money will go the longest. So investing your life into something like these practices, Isha Hatha yoga practices, will last you your entire life, even when you become old and you're not able to bench press 200 pounds, you're not able to run a marathon. You'll still have connection with the breath, and you'll still have connection with the body. And you'll still be able to just sit wherever you are as your grandkids pile around you in their energy, and your garden needs tending, or you're just simply on the last phase of life, or whatever you're doing, and you're able to just be with the breath, because that's the last thing that goes. So you should work on your connection with the breath. You should work on your connection with how you use your mind. And of course, the body should be used to its fullest extent. Every day you should be tired from using your body. It's such a beautiful feeling to be pushed to that exhaustion, and then have practices like this where you can invigorate yourself, and sleep just happens, wonderfully with all of these tools combined.
From the beginning of our conversation until now, you mentioned a lot of you drop a lot of golden nuggets in terms of the benefits that you experienced, that others experienced, or that people can expect from yoga. But have you, as we all know, and starting with the example that you narrated of the first, or one of the first people you shared your experience with, of that 3-4 hour YouTube session where you just binged on Sadhguru's videos for the first time, but you were met with a complete opposite reaction to what you expected. Something that we experience a lot that as teachers is that people have really a twisted out notion about yoga. So in your experience, what are some of the notions that people who said no to your classes, or people who just in a conversation among friends who were introduced, and people say some reason for not doing yoga, something, as any experience or set of, how do you call it, set of mental barriers that people bring up on a routine. And in that, do you also notice a distinction between Canada specifically, or North America specifically, compared to Bharat, India?
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think a resistance, it's not just to yoga, but to anything. People will pull out all types of reasons why. Too old, too young, not yet, maybe later. But in terms of like, specifically maybe to yoga, there is, I think the biggest crime that people say is, oh, I've already tried yoga. That's probably the most crushing for me, because they've done something. It's like if someone had really bad chocolate, okay? They just had some Nesquik liquid, and they said, and you asked if they've had chocolate, and you're like, yes, I've had chocolate before. I don't like it. It's too syrupy, and it's too like, and you're like, well, what kind of chocolate did you have? And they describe this syrupy type liquid, and you're like, well, that's not chocolate. That's not even based in chocolate. If you look at the ingredients of this, it's not chocolate at all. So that's probably one of the saddest things I hear, is when people like, I already have tried it. But in terms of like actually being opposed to it, it's less, because in the West, I would say, because of a guru, it's less because of that, because at least back then they didn't have so much knowledge like they do now. Now Sadhguru is, so wide known, and Osho has become even more wide known with the internet, and there's more information for the West now to kind of maybe have resistance, but there's also so much goodwill that's been established by someone like Sadhguru that it really has worked in both directions, where now what people had as faults, Sadhguru has done so many wonderful things with, helping villagers look forward to sports, and bringing like entire villages and entire in states out of poverty and alcohol through the use of sport, and raising children in this Isha Vidya, and helping them get to school and learn, and this Save Soil movement that's now spread across the world. Obviously, right, they say that you have to eat 8 oranges now to get the same nutrients as 1 orange back when like my grandparents were alive. So these are something that people kind of relate to, and when Sadhguru's done such a wonderful job, and the volunteers and everybody else involved, to make people realize, actually, okay, Save Soil and these movements are a reminder of, okay, like everybody eats, everybody dies, everybody enjoys food. So these are the things that we need to look at. If you don't want to think about big things, like what is enlightenment in these things. And I've always been so blessed that Sadhguru, and for me, I've never felt too far away. He's always kept me close and reminded me that what you do now with the breath, the body, the mind is the most important thing. How you hold yourself now doesn't matter what you've done. How are you right now in this moment? How present are you? And that's been the biggest thing for me, is because, yeah, if you say some big words, or you talk about mukti, enlightenment, moksha, this thing, and you read a book to someone, they're only going to have that knowledge as a book. But something like Save Soil is such an experience. Okay, so the soil is losing this. Human body is getting weaker because of it. How Rome, one of the reasons for Rome falling was the soil quality went down, right? So more effort into the soil becomes a problem, and the human is suffering it. And now we have gadgets, and we have all these things, and mental health is a problem. And now with this miracle of mind, right? He started with things like Shakti Chalana Kriya, 40 minutes it takes. Then Shambhavi, 21 minutes. Oh, people still not quite getting it. Okay, 12 minutes Isha Kriya. Okay, now we're going to do 7 minutes Miracle of Mind. Can you do 7 minutes? Like, he's packaged it so well that it can go over people's heads because it's right in front of them. I remember pre-internet era, I've talked to some people who have found Sadhguru, and this one girl, she shared, I was just in New York in art school, and I just saw this photo of this man, and I needed to know more about it. So she just found the address, and she went into some venue at some point and just sat for a talk and just knew, wow, this guy has something. So now with the internet, it's a double-edged sword where information is so readily available, but also so is the distraction. If you told someone 100 years ago that there's a guru that will come and give you 7 minutes of a practice, he'll just put it on a screen in front of your face. You don't have to give up anything. It would have been like, what a magical thing. Probably one of the biggest things I would say, if we're going back to these things, is also people like, oh, I don't think spirituality should be paid. I don't think you should have to pay for these things because it should be free and given. And yes, it was free and it was given, but you would have to go live. First, you'd have to travel away from your family and friends, go to an ashram, spend 12 years sweeping floors, and then maybe the guru would give you a practice to learn. So what do you think? The internet isn't free. The infrastructure isn't free. Sadhguru offers many things for free. All of these things are free. This Miracle of Mind is free. Isha Kriya is free. And these have had profound impacts, Isha Kriya, profound impacts on me and people I talk to. And these are offered for free. Simple yoga practices for free. So much is actually offered free that you could just take the free stuff and live a very good life. And even Samyama, which is the most advanced program for first timers, it's also free. So he's really like, you need to take care of the infrastructure in between, and creating people that are more capable and more able to do life in a positive way. That's his goal. So you have to reach people where they are. Some people need a retreat. Some people need it in a certain way. Some people want to say that they went to Bali to learn a practice. Some people want to, talk about it with their friends and compare experiences. And some people just really want it, so they'll find a way through volunteering and all these other ways to experience the deeper practices. And it's something for me that I just like when people say like it shouldn't be free. I'm like, yeah, well, it shouldn't be right in front of your face either, but it is. The amount of tremendous work and effort that has come to build this for them just shows the compassion. You know, I always look when I see the Adiyogi and I see all these people coming, and they'll come just for a selfie with Adiyogi. They won't even come into the Isha Yoga Center. They won't go past the Sarpavaso. They won't go Surya Kund, Devi Temple, Dhyana Linga, which was Sadhguru's main reason for like creating the ashram was for this. They'll come for a selfie with the beautiful Adiyogi and then go home. But it's also amazing because also the Adiyogi is consecrated, right? So this linga is there. So even a little bit of time that they've spent there, they've spent in a consecrated area. So I always felt like it would be so cool to consecrate stadiums and auditoriums and where people are sitting and enjoying music and sports, that their well-being is also taken care of, you know, in colleges and universities. Back in the day, I mean, in Bharat especially, they would be based around there would be a temple, there would be these things where that was the main thing. And I think probably one of the saddest things that I see in Bharat in terms of education is that a lot of the educated class are actually more averse to it. You know, they're trying to do what we in the West are doing. They think they see me, they think I'm a YouTuber, which has now begun. So the prophecy has happened, and you're also doing it now. But yeah, when they look at this and they say, "Oh, that's not it," or you know, there's been bad press, and sometimes even sadly so, there's been motivated agenda against the idea of actual guru in Indian life, because there has been some stories of some bad things happening. Even Osho's thing was turned and flipped, and only one part of it was focused on, and you know, for it destroying the message until it comes around to people. And the guru's role in Indian life, because they've kind of become a little bit more Western, not a little bit, a lot of it. I know kids now that in Mumbai that barely can speak their mother tongue or Hindi or anything else but English. And they have an aversion to it, actually. They think it's backwards. They don't see the purpose in it. And when I see that, that's what makes me kind of realize how important it is that that this exists, because these kids aren't, they might feel that they're doing something new and something exciting with being you know, westernized and watching Western content on YouTube. You know, if you can see a big power shift now, if you hear the accents of kids nowadays, before it was a British English, now it's an American English. So you can see the shift of entertainment and the shift of power in terms of what you know, the Bharatiya youth are like. So that's probably the thing. So I see why in the West it's so important for right yoga to be established with like Sadhguru Gurukulam and all these things, is because there is this looking to the West, and there is this desire to have what the West has. But I can tell you, as someone who has been the West and had everything that the West can offer, the beauty, you know, the wealth, these things, that we don't have it. We're looking for it. Where is it? And it happens to be in these people's backyard, but because it's not new and exciting, and it doesn't seem like it's something that my grandma did, it's something that this did, you know. And it also happened to me where I kind of had thrown off Christianity, because I'm not going to live in life where I do stuff because I'm fearful of God. I won't do it because I'm afraid of him. I want to do it because somebody's there who loves me. And I think innately we know that the parent who forces you to do something versus the parent that lovingly lets you make the mistake, you know which kind of person you want to be like, and you know what kind of behavior you want to model yourself after. And in you know, Bharat also, it was the same situation where why is my grandma doing this? She's saying, like, she's doing it, it's happening wonderfully in her life, but her reasoning for her children is now to also say, if you don't do it, God will do this to you. Or, oh, like the fear has been, you know, both Christianity, both Hindu, both all of these kind of religions where you think, I don't want to live in fear. I think my life would be better if I just earned money in a business and got a good tech job and did all these things. So I don't have to think about worrying about these things. It seems only poor people worry about the fear of God. And it seems like this is the only way that they're existing. So they kind of, everybody threw off everything. And I thought, how could there be, with Jesus, I thought, like, how can there be only one? How can there be only one Messiah? How can there be only one person that's been this good? And everybody else is a bunch of, you know, sinful dogs. I couldn't accept that, you know, because I looked around and I saw wonderful people, and I saw wonderful people who weren't close to the church, and I saw people in the church that weren't wonderful, and of course there was many wonderful people also in the church. But I realized, okay, this doesn't make sense for me, and I became kind of like this atheist kind of approach. And once I covered what exists in that Jesus isn't one, but one of many, and they have thousands, and they have such an inclusive idea and such a path, women, men, all with the possibility to become something more, you know, more loving, more capable, more caring. So yeah, the culture here, and it's being revived, you know, I've seen in the last 7 or so years that I've been here, there is more people interested in it deeply now, but the younger generation right now, with the domination of YouTube and the domination of Western ideals, because they see it as something exciting. I'm seeing a lot more people actually, and this is happening now, the ones who come from India go to the US, realizes the dream isn't there. Now I see so many coming back because of people like Sadhguru, and because of people even like Prime Minister Modi, where people are like, you know, actually India is doing well. You know, Bharat is something that is blossoming, you know. There's so many wonderful stories here of people really living powerfully and just making a living that's nice for themselves now. And I had an opportunity even of speaking with some workers. So I was on set for one of my series coming out, and will come out next year. But I was sitting with the workers because I just finished my set, and it's a beautiful set, and I was doing some Kalari Paitu on the set because there's a certain part that's kind of built for it. So I said, let me try it out. And I was coming out and I was seeing all these guys doing the construction, and they had been doing the construction nonstop for a month and a half. I went and sat and just had some chai with them, and we're all just hanging out, and they're like kind of shocked because I've gotten like so comfortable now being here. They're like, who is this guy just coming, you know, foreigner coming so comfortably sitting, speaking some Hindi with us, some Marathi with us. Who is this guy? So they take an interest, and of course, the one out of the group that can speak the most English is the one that emerges, and we're having this conversation. And I always, like, when I get a chance, I speak about Sadhguru, I speak about Adiyogi, and one of the workers there, he showed me one of his brothers had gone for Mahashivratri this year. And, you know, people are looking at this. Adiyogi has become such a, you know, such an image that taxi drivers here in Mumbai for the last 4 years have had this on their dashboard. You know, these guys have it on the background of their phone. They don't even know that it's from Coimbatore, but they know, yes, Shankar Dev, yes, Shiva, you know, that's how they speak about it, more so than just Adiyogi and these things. So it's wonderful to see on like the grassroots level, there's also so much love and so much support there, you know. Sometimes we think on the internet that those are the opinions that matter, and those are the things that shape the world. But these people that are, you know, working and they're living a life, they have a private reverence that's still alive and it's still palpable, you know. When people get off the internet, and that's why Save Soil is a thing, when you get off the internet and you immerse yourself in the earth and you immerse yourself with the people around you, you realize you're not that separate. Your opinions are not that different. But one little thing, boom, 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 gets poked at and it explodes. And that's what gravitates attention, right? Like, if right now we were speaking and a fight broke out and you heard people yelling, you would have to get up and you would have to see what's happening. So the quiet way, you know, and that's one thing that's so beautiful about Sanatan, right? That's how I see it. I don't see it as like Hindu or Muslim or Christian. Sanatan, some truth is there. All these religions, all these people have some grain or somewhere between each other that is a similar thread. And to look at all these things and being inclusive of all these things, Sanatan is just one of these words, like, you know, the truth, the eternal truth. There's something that is there underneath all these that really makes me as a person very like much more understanding to the world and of different opinions and of different ways of looking at life. So yeah, we're here in the West. We're out there in the West. We're trying to figure it out. And here they're trying to figure out, everybody's trying to figure it out. And it's something to witness, you know, like you also, right? You're part of both cultures. Now, you've also been here for what, like a decade now. So we're both like seeing both sides of the world, and you can see even with world views and even world tactics. And this is such a time, you know, it's good to be proud. It's good to be proud, like to be young, be proud of your country, be proud of your upbringing, be proud of helping people. Look to your neighbor and support them, you know. And these people like Trump and Prime Minister Modi, you know, in different circles, they're really loved, and some other places, they're made to seem like really bad people. And all you can say is you can just look at the track record of them, and you can say, like, you can only judge that. How can you judge an opinion? Like, for example, I remember one thing with President Trump, right? No new wars. That was what made me realize, like, right, I don't remember the last president in my life that hasn't gone to and done a new war somewhere in the world. And he was the first one. Peace in the Middle East. I'm like, what is? I thought this was a bad guy, and here he is, like in the Middle East of all places, talking about world peace. And I saw how close him and Modi had, Prime Minister Modi had gotten. And even here, since I've been here, I came in 2017, and that was when Jio was giving SIM cards for everyone, free SIM cards, you know. So maids, all these people getting access to the internet, all these people getting access to calling people. Such a world opened up, right, for communication. And now, just last year, I met a maid, and she's still a maid, but she's been able to afford now a house that she now rents. So she's a maid, but she's also a landowner. She's also a landlord. So such things were not possible, from my understanding and what people have shared with me over the past few decades. And now, within these last few years, she's a maid and now a landlord and earning rent and recurring income. So you can only basically judge off of that, right? At the end of your life, yes, how you made the people close to you feel is important, and how you used your words and how you did stuff. But if you look at the track record, that will be the thing people talk about. So when it's all about based on opinion and quick reaction and sound bites and small clips, yeah, you can steer a narrative for so long. But when you look back over 1, 2, 3, 4 years, and this person is still there standing strong, and the world around them is better, that's when you can really tell what this person is.
You had briefly hinted at it in the last couple of minutes, and to bring this podcast a little bit towards a close, I'd love to hear more about your acting career, and what drew you into acting, and how is it acting in Canada compares versus acting here in Bharat? And are you cast in similar roles all the time, or so you're put in like a foreigner mold, or are you also able and allowed to explore different kinds of projects? Whatever you wish to share about it, I'd be glad to hear it.
Yeah, so what drew me to acting, I would say, I think always when you were younger, and internet wasn't around. Other forms of entertainment weren't around. So one of the big meeting points of the family, one of the big things that a family would come together and do is watch a movie together. Didn't matter what you were doing, who you were, what bills were paid, what bills weren't paid, what was coming up next. You turned on a movie that was coming out that you looked forward to, and that was your life for the next 2 hours. Hearing, you know, comedians like Robin Williams and Jim Carrey and these people just make my family laugh, you know, and just seeing that effect that it had on people, and seeing what, like, a movie, how it can move you. Maybe that's why they call it a movie. How it moved you, how it made you capable to experience something in a story that you may not know, but somehow there was something human about it that you could relate. That kind of drew me, but the idea of Hollywood and the idea of the Brad Pitts and the Tom Cruises and how many people spend their whole life into it, you know, for me, trying to chase that dream didn't seem like an option. I had more of like a working class family background, so if you can't get into university, you go work in the trades, but honestly, to be honest, trades are a fantastic way. Carpentry, plumbing, you know, farming, all these other ways of experiencing, you know, and they earn good money actually in Canada, which is a big difference from here in India, where electricians really show up with a screwdriver and fix something. But, and that's why it's so unfortunate sometimes you see the electrical deaths and stuff. But in Canada, the trades are respected jobs. A carpenter, a electrician is a well-paid and respected position of post. So yeah, there was kind of like, you do that, or you move into university and you pursue that. And when people think, oh, you are smart, you should go to university, you should do X, Y, and Z, you kind of believe it, because the idea of entertainment business is like these one-off, one-shots, either you make it or you don't make it kind of approach, right, in Hollywood. And then we had just spoken about, I decided, okay, you have to create your own content, you have to do something for yourself. So I started doing some stand-up. I did a little bit of different stages here and there. I would go and do some stand-up, and I enjoyed it. It felt exhilarating to share a joke that connected or didn't connect. It was the process that I really enjoyed. And then I would do, you know, improv and all these things. I really found it was fun, and it was like very alive, and people are wanting to communicate through it. And yeah, it felt alive. There's something in that people are wanting to experience. And yeah, I guess even when I was in grade 2, I was the lead of my play. Okay, I'll tell you this. It was called The Little Lost Witch. And this little lost witch, obviously a witch is a girl, a wizard is a guy. But I was in grade 2, and I was a little bit of a spunky kid. And I thought to myself, and then I thought it out loud. I asked the teacher, I said, how come guys can't be the witch? This was before any of this gender identity or all these other things going through schools right now. It was just more like to be a brat. I was saying, like, why can't guys also be witches? And the teacher looked and she said, okay, all right. And she humored it. It's a small town, 1,500 people type small town. Like, classroom is like 20 kids of neighboring towns all coming. She looks around, she's like, you're right. All right. And the guys behind me are like, yeah, why can't guys also be witches, right? Just to fuel the fire. Helicopter. And she's like, looks around, okay, all right, sure, guys. Yeah. Everybody's like this. The girls are like, no. The guys are like, yes. And the teacher's like, fine. Which one of you guys wants to be the witch? And I looked behind me. No hands were raised. And the teacher looks at me and she says, Ashton, you suggested it. I'll put your name in the hat. And then from the girls, a girl raised her hand and she's like, okay. And Jessica, her name will be in the hat. And we'll pick and whoever gets this becomes the lead of the play. And she put her hand in, and I was like, man, I really hope now that the chances of 50-50 roll in her favor. And she put her hand in the hat, pulled it out. My name. So I became the little lost witch lead of the play. So that was the first time I really got some acting experience from the ripe age of grade 2. And yeah, just kind of, one of the lines I remember from it is, I'm a little lost witch, a sad and spooky witch, and I'll tell you just why. So the story kind of evolves from there. But yeah, that was the first kind of time I had to learn lines and be a part of it. And I enjoyed it. It must have been something for the time. That would have been like early 2000s maybe, or late 90s. So they would have like, why is he little lost witch? You know, that must have been some. But I had people come up saying, you did so wonderfully and you did so well. So it was cool to be a part of it. Along with that and ice hockey were kind of my life. And I kind of left it on the back burner through university and school, and I started doing it again after some stand-up, but I realized, like, is it really what I want to offer? Because like we had spoken about, you give them a laugh, you give them something to think about, but does it change their life? Does it transform their life? If they were, you know, not able to speak English, could they still have their life transformed? You know, like all these kind of questions that I have. Okay, the greats like Lenny Bruce and Bill Hicks and George Carlin and Patrice O'Neill, they said such wonderful things, you know, and Robin Williams and all these others. They said such wonderful things that made you think and made you ponder about life, but how far does that take you, you know? It makes you only more pissed, more upset with the way things are. That it doesn't really give you, it's like, yeah, that's so true, but why? How do I do it? So that's when I went into yoga. And then now after being in Bharat, I was living here, and I had a friend saying, like, you know, you should try acting. And I was like, okay, let me see. So we went and we did like background on the set of some film, and I saw it and I liked it. And I thought it was cool, like, wow, look at all this stuff and the quality of cameras and all these things. Like, it's the same here as it is anywhere in the world now, you know, Hollywood or here. The quality in terms of camera is the same, and the work, and I was just kind of sitting in the back, and I was like, okay, it's fine, you know, when they need to make it seem like it's in Bharat, but it's also they need to make it seem like it's in America. They'll have, you know, Westerners in the background, and then, oh, there we go, it's now in America. So that was kind of how they would write, instead of having to actually shoot on location and save and spend a bunch of money. And I did that, but I realized, like, I felt so like unfulfilled. Like, I want to actively contribute. I want to be a part of this. I want to do something with this, actually. So I remember I went on for another set, and I was getting dressed up, and I met another friend of mine, wonderful guy from England, and he was there. He was working in the industry, and I spoke with him, and you know, we were on set of like a Shah Rukh Khan film, and we got our army uniform on, and we kind of hit it off. And I asked him kind of like, how is he doing it? And then he connected me to the world of Bharat cinema. He gave me a number of some agents and some people, and kind of from then on, right? It's up to you how you want to do it, and it, of course, it's not easy. You're met with a lot, you know, like even bargaining for a few hundred rupees something in Bharat is a challenge, right? Going for vegetables every day, especially as a foreigner, they'll jack up the price. You have to bring it down to find some middle ground, right? It's part of the exchange. It's part of the life. But then when you're thinking about, like, your career is dependent on it, your acting is dependent on it, then you feel like, it feels like, am I just a tomato? Am I just some moringa? Am I just, you know, some bhaji myself that I have to trade? So you kind of throw yourself into it, and you kind of gotta, yeah, bargain. You gotta discuss things, and you gotta some people want to help you, some people want to take 70% of what you're making, and you don't know who is who for the most part a lot of the times. So it's like some very unclear, unsure thing, and you're kind of doing it and you're sending auditions and you don't know if it's coming back, and days go by, weeks go by, months go by, and you don't know like really where it is and where you're headed. And then one time I was giving an audition, and it was for like a big upcoming, it was for this Hiramandi, which is one of Mr. Sanjay Leela Bansali's, his first big series on Netflix. And I gave my audition, learning Hindi as well as I go, and I didn't hear back, but I was in my mind, using the power of yoga, you could say, the power of visualization, the power of being like, people had told me about him as a director and showed me some of his films, and I liked the look of them. I liked story. I liked the grandiose nature of them, and people are like, you should work with him one day. They're just being supportive, and it's like, it'd be like if you watch a Spielberg or a Scorsese or Michael Bay or big directors in Hollywood, and somebody will just say, yeah, you should work with them one day. It's like, yeah, okay, sure, maybe we'll get a chance. And I gave the audition, and I was using the power of visualization, honestly, and like telling myself when I woke up, telling myself in the morning that I have this role. I'm on set, I'm experiencing this role, I'm saying hello to the director, I'm saying hello to the DOP, I'm acting with these people, I'm being called on set. And I got a call, okay, give another audition. I'm like, okay. I got a call, another audition. Like, did they get my last audition? And it was like this for like 3 months, I think 3, 4, 5 auditions like this happened. And then one day I was traveling and I got the call saying, oh, congratulations. And even the person who had gotten me, who had been in coordination with them, was also in disbelief. He's like, let me just, I'll call them, we'll make sure once the money's all right and once the contract's there in front of you, then we'll know for sure. And it was just one of these moments where I thought, okay, you don't really know what it's going to be like, because honestly, my experience, of Bharat cinema, like, was still fresh at that time. So I don't really know what this means, and the names and the people and the things. I knew it was going to be on Netflix, and I knew it was going to be something and big director, but I didn't really have that tie into, the like Mumbai cinema scene as much as, we grow up watching Hollywood and all these things. So I was like, okay, cool, what an opportunity. And then it was actually Guru Purnima was one of the first days that I went and I met them on set, and I got the opportunity to say hello and introduce. And I just looked at it like, wow, of all days, to come and to be a part of a big project, I looked at it as, wow, the blessings of the Guru are with me. The blessings of Sadhguru are with me. To be able to come here and experience this whole dimension of life, this acting and these things on this, one of the biggest sets that, has been set up in Mumbai, to be a part of that. And, acting, it has this approach of like, oh, you got to be really full of yourself. You got to think too much of yourself. Actors are like this and people are like this. And, there's always that hesitation in the mind when you do something externally and you want to do something and you want to do it well. You think to yourself, maybe I'm doing this just to fulfill some thing. And you kind of downplay yourself, you're like, maybe I'm just too full of myself. Maybe I should be thinking how to serve people more. Maybe I should be not thinking, how can I become an actor? That these thoughts kind of creep in because it's such a big out there kind of job in the world. It's it's like the job like that, where ego or these things are a concern, and people are going to make opinions about you regardless, and you think, maybe I should live small. But then, of course, my first day of meeting everyone on set there was on Guru Purnima, and I just thought, this is a tool I can use. Acting is a wonderful thing I like to do, and to be in that position where you act and you have an opportunity to impact people, and you have an opportunity to live a very high life in terms of possibilities of earning an impact and creation of art in a format that is received by, you know, millions of people. What an experience to have. And those people, that's going to exist whether or not I do it. So those people, who's ever in that role, should also have a certain way with their mind, should also have a certain way with their body, should also be pursuing life to its fullest. And that's when I realized, yeah, let's see how far this thing can go.
Awesome. Maybe after this recording is over, I'll just ask you a list of things which are available even on YouTube, Netflix, Amazon Prime, or wherever people can see you in action. We can maybe put them in the description of the video. That would be wonderful. Be they commercials, series, be they movies, whichever work you'd like to share with our viewers, that would be wonderful for the podcast to see in action. And also for people who would like to see you in action in a different way, who are listening to this from Mumbai and might want to take you up on a Classical Hatha Yoga program. So whichever way you feel it is best for them to contact you, we'll just put it in the description of the video. I almost didn't do anything in this podcast. I just gave 4 or 5 questions and you just took it and ran with it. So that was so easy for me. Is there anything else you'd like to say in conclusion? Whether it's about acting, about yoga, or about this beautiful adoptive country of ours? Anything really.
Closing remarks, huh? No, I could say a little bit of all of them, but for the great country that is Bharat, it's one of the countries to be in right now. You know, if you're living here, if you're hearing this, if you've thought about doing something with yourself and wanting to make yourself something, this is definitely the time to do it. The support is there. And whether it's acting, whether it's a business, whether it's just to be with your family more fully, this Sadhguru Gurukulam practice, sorry, you'll have to edit that probably, the practices are the way to do it. It doesn't matter if you're a housewife, if you want to start a business, if you want to be an actor, if you want to be someone that has an impact in people's lives. And it is just true, they're just existing in this planet, you're going to have an impact on people's lives. You can't avoid that. So these practices are the way to start there. And starting with something as simple as 7 minutes, the Miracle of Mind app, just download it on your phone right now. I know if this is in a YouTube reel, it's going to be there. You're going to be tempted to swipe. Just click away for 2 minutes, downloaded it, try it out 7 minutes and see how you feel, as opposed to 7 minutes of scrolling or 7 minutes of literally anything else that you could do. Start there. And I'd love to hear about your journey, how they get to where they are, how you get to where you are, what you become, what you make of what you are. I'm available. We'll put, like Francesco had mentioned, social media, these things. If you have questions even about acting, if you have questions about, your own, wanting to take control of yourself and your mind and your body, Francesco is also available. He's currently in Hyderabad. Also, I'm in Mumbai traveling. I'll be doing that for some more time now. But, people like this, and Francesco is giving this opportunity, for us to share and let you know that whether it's acting, whether it's business, whether it's just family, everybody can benefit from these practices. You don't have to believe in anything. You just do the practice. You don't have to believe in a sandwich to enjoy a sandwich. You don't have to believe in a hammer to fix a house. They just do what they're supposed to do. And that's exactly what these practices are. So I wish you all the best. Namaskaram. And let's build ourselves, because any great nation, any great world only is made up of individuals. Let's make it happen.
Let's make it happen. Thank you so much for your time. And it was a pleasure to have you and listen to you. And as you rightfully said, to whoever is watching this, in whichever country and whichever month or year in the future, or right now, please, if whatever reflection you have, any spontaneous reflection, just drop it in the comments, and or reach out to Ashton or myself through whatever channels we make available, and let's take it from there. Thank you so much. And before we close, a special shout out to our respective Desi partners who are putting up with our putting up with us being foreigners in this beautiful land. And but we're doing our best and integrating, shooting roots as deep as possible, and becoming more Desi by the day. Take care, and we'll be in touch. Thank you all for tuning in, and see you in the next podcast. Ciao. Namaskaram.